this Israeli company. We're doing this by creating events like this. We're getting all the time requests from Israeli companies to find partners, to connect them with the right end users or integrator. And also we doing scouting services for South African companies. It used to be before Corona taking into Israel to see the technologies, to see the right solutions that they're looking for. Now it's more like virtual when we sitting with a South African client company, whatever, and we're doing a scouting services where we're identifying based with our connections and knowledge in Israel, the relevant technologies that can help them to grow. Before I start this event, I want to say thank you, first of all, for our magnificent partner, SIA, the South African Insurance Association. Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much, Vivian. It's the second event that we have with you, and I hope to many more. It's really a pleasure to working with you. And also, I would like to thank Karishma and Katlecho from my team for organizing and putting this all together. When we were thinking about the subject and what to do, and you know, cyber is very, very common thing in South Africa, and insurance, I don't know, like for the Israeli companies, that you know that out of 100 most innovative insurance companies in the world, 5 of them are South Africans. So it's a very, it's a segment that South Africa is really excelling at. And we thought that this is kind of connection and collaborations that could benefit and can bring, you know, the best of the Israeli side and also the South African side. So I know that at the moment is the cyber insurance, it's just at the beginning of South Africa. And we felt that this is the time to start and to talk about it. And really we have the top experts in Israel for that to present it. So before we're starting with the moderation and everything, Vivian, I will give you the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say the joys of working from home. There's a lot of noise in the background. My son is unfortunately busy giving a drumming lesson to his students. So I'll be very short and sweet. I want to say good afternoon to everybody. And I wish I could have been there in person this evening. I just had some meetings up to now, and there was a storm, so I was never going to make it. So, but I would like to welcome everybody to this event. I think it is an important topic for our industry. So the South African Insurance Association is really very happy to collaborate with the Israel Trade Mission on this topic. I think it is relevant and it's important. Cyber insurance as a topic brings, I think, many opportunities. There could very well also be many challenges that we will potentially learn about tonight. So I am personally looking very much forward to the panel discussion, and I'm sure we will all enjoy it, and we will have a lot of takeaways to take away with us and some food for thought. So I'd really like to thank the Israel Trade Mission for this opportunity to join this event and to collaborate on it. And I really believe that we will all enjoy it. Thank you very much, and enjoy the evening. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. And it's again, it's a pleasure. So without a further ado, I will introduce you the moderator that will take this mic from me and will be the experts on this. So the guy in the big sofa, Daryl Bernstein is a partner, head of Baker McKinsey Dispute Resolution Practice Group in Johannesburg, where he advises on the resolutions of complex commercial disputes, regulatory compliance, and investigation, as well as continuous and non-continuous communications, media, privacy, and technology matters. Daryl advises a range of large global multinationals and domestic clients, including telecommunications operators, technology vendors, software and hardware developers, and retailers in relations to internet and e-business services, communications, regulations, and compliance. After this whole introductions, it's up to you now. Thank you, Daryl, and good luck.
Thank you very much. I've got one, so I think that's the roving mic for questions from the audience. So, perhaps before I kick off, we should do some introductions from our panel, because I think it would be great to hear from them directly who's going to be speaking to you today. I am by no means the expert. You have been lumped with a lawyer, I'm afraid to tell you, for the rest of the session. And I'm going to be in the very good hands of our panel. So Dikla, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Daryl. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together. I'm so excited to be here with you. My name is Dikla Wagner, and I represent Munich Re in Israel and heading their tech scouting. Munich Re, a tiny insurance company. No, I'm just joking. Munich Re is one of the leading reinsurance companies, 141 years old already. Gross premium for last year of $59 billion, investment of 233 billion euro, and going up. I represent them here in Israel. Our activity are to look for investments, opportunity, technology that will transform Munich Re and will transform the industry. We're also scouting and advising our clients and our subsidiary, Ergo and HSB. A little bit about myself. So I've been in the Israeli ecosystem for the past 15 years as investors, as a CEO and co-founder of startup, as a consultant for a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited to be here today and share with you what we know from the ecosystem in Israel.
Dikla, thank you very much. Judging by the screen we have in front of us, I'm going to ask Yakir to go next, please.
Sure. So pleasure to be here today, everyone. We would love to present you our insights today about cyber insurance and our take. Unfortunately, we weren't able to attend in person, but I'm sure you can appreciate the insight we will share today. A bit about myself: I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Kovrr, which is a cyber risk modeling firm based out of Israel. Most of the teams come from the world of cyber intelligence, as you probably anticipate. And what we do, we serve both insurance and reinsurance companies across the globe and enterprises with cyber risk quantification solutions, whether it's around underwriting, portfolio management, and also cyber risk quantification that is more aimed to chief risk officers, board of directors, and such. And yes, pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much, Akir. And then, of course, last but not least, Matan.
So hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I wish that we could meet you all in person as well, but it is what it is with COVID times. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Panorays. Before that, I was starting my career in the Israeli Air Force software unit, many years in Imperva, the security company, and involved with 4 startups before Panorays. What we do is Panorays is actually we enable cyber trust between companies and their third parties, suppliers, business partners, and also we help companies with the cyber insurance field because the assessment is pretty much the same of testing and assessing the security posture from the inside and the outside of those companies. So that's me in a glimpse. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matan. So that's the panel. They'll hopefully be giving you some of their insights. Amit did say that cyber insurance is a fairly new area, and this is a new topic that we're going to be covering today. It's not just cyber insurance that's new, right? This whole notion of cyber crime, as we know it, is something that is developing and changing and growing all the time. And it's new in the sense that South Africa has this fairly unique environment where we have a very sophisticated financial system, a very sophisticated set of entrepreneurs and businesses, a thriving technological ecosystem in the business community, and we have almost no law enforcement to speak of, right? And so what happens in environments like that? You have very, very cunning and clever criminals that exploit your financial and your technological sectors because they're all sophisticated and because they know that this is a relatively soft environment in which they can operate without ongoing intense scrutiny from highly sophisticated law enforcement and regulators who know exactly what's going on. So it's a cyber insurance may be new, but we have for the first time just received the Cyber Crimes Act from a South African perspective, right? And what does that do? That tries to take our existing ecosystem where criminals use computers to commit crimes in the very old-fashioned and ordinary sense and bring it into the modern age, where there are now specific criminal offenses in relation to the crimes that you can commit using networks, using online systems, using technology and using tools, and to try and use the legislation to really bring law enforcement and prosecutors up to speed so that there can be some movement with regards to investigations and prosecutions in this particular area. So it's a complex area, and it's a particularly complex area from a South African perspective because of, I think, those insights and the way in which businesses in South Africa to some degree become a bit of a soft target in that respect. So where does that leave us as South Africans and as businesses and as insurers from the perspective of the products that are out there, the way the ecosystem works, and what insurance companies are doing? So I thought I'd start with Matan. And Matan, I wanted to ask you a question about how can insurance companies deal with the very dynamic nature of this environment and the threats that keep changing? You know, how does that inform the risk model? And, you know, what are your thoughts on this environment?
Sure. So, yeah, you're right. And you got some good points about, you know, the dynamic, you know, if we looked at insurance and something which is more static, you know, cyber is a changing threat, right? We'll see in the past years, and cyber is not new in any way in the world, but we see a rise in the kind of the attacks and the velocity of the attacks all over the world, like ransomware, phishing, even supply chain attacks, which we see, you know, quite often. Attackers become more sophisticated and are able to do things that are, you know, more automated sometimes with unidirectional and indirect attacks, or something when they want to attack a specific organization, they can go really deeply and have a lot of resources about that attack. I can actually share something from our, you know, industry as well, on the third-party security, where we're seeing attackers going on the weakest link all the time, right? Even on the supply chain, when they see a company which is, you know, doesn't have the measurements of security, doesn't have all the right products in place, they can start there and just hop on to all other organizations and have effect on other organizations in the world. So I think as for, you know, the cyber insurance industry and insurance companies in general, I think first of all is, you know, to have the basics and have tools and data that can help you or to ensure and enable to build models which will be sustainable about companies. I think, you know, having, you know, products and companies that have ability to measure security postures of companies, understand where they are, what processes are meaningful and helpful. And I think some of the industry already adopted a lot of those tools as well. I think, and you asked about the short term and long term. I think in the short term, we already see a change in the world. Companies are actually increasing primes as we're seeing rise on the cyber threats and the claims for in cyber insurance. I think it actually means we need to raise the bar of companies we can work and insure that have measurements of security, and not just, you know, every company can get one in a sense. I think we need to understand which markets we need to be more afraid of and which are not, you know, which are more affected, and which attackers can actually will want more to attack, than they are more attractive to attack than others, which are not. And in the long run, I think, you know, it's really important for insurance and cybersecurity companies to work together, because there is a lot to do, a lot to adopt from the insurance side about things we already understood on the cyber material, right? To understand the security posture, to work with security products, and gain more information and more data, to change models. And even on the supply chain security, there is a lot of, you know, companies that added endpoint security as a must-have in order to have a cyber insurance claim. Now with the XIA and SolarWinds and attacks like that, we hope to see more products implemented in companies you actually want to assure. So that's a long run kind of perspective about that as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matan. I want to stay with you for 1 second and ask you just a follow-up question in relation to how you think that might impact the insurer, reinsurer risk model. I mean, does that feed into your modeling?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I think, it will surely will do in the short term and the long term as well. And as I said, I think we're seeing that the raising of the bar on the insurer. I think it really resonates with markets when we're seeing attacks on companies, and we have to deal with that. I think, as you said at the beginning, if we look at that, if insurers will keep looking at that industry as static, just say on past we saw those attacks, and this is what needs to be done in order to have those prime. I think it won't really matter. I think we need products which are more dynamic, can work daily, and have things that are more suitable to the market we're actually playing in. It's not cars and healthcare and health insurance and stuff. Something much more dynamic than everything else.
And Yakir, I want to turn to you for a second just to talk about, in some respects, the size of the customer, the size of the corporates that you would serve. There are enormous multinationals, global businesses of massive proportions. They're all equally vulnerable to the same kinds of cyber threats in the modern age, right? So is there a particular size of corporation for whom this doesn't work? Is there in a sense a policy sum that wouldn't really be viable from the perspective of insurance? What are your thoughts?
I would say that today, more than ever, that we experience market hardening, that capacity is scarce. There is a capacity issues in the market. I think if you ask about a big enterprise in general, most aspire to have higher limits than what they currently being provided. But to your question, there is no clear cut saying this is the ceiling to what you should provide to a big enterprise. I would say it depends totally on the company and must be developed when we're talking about these big multinationals, bespoke for them, and then higher limits totally are sustainable. And when I'm saying sustainable, it means that you have to take reasonable actions as carrier to assess the risk in a single point of time when you are underwriting it, and continuously, as Matan said, because the threats are continuously evolving, and you need to continuously detect how the company is doing good or not versus these threats. I would say, adding to that what's really important as well is to have, it's also connected to the dynamic nature of the landscape, to have what I love to call robust cyber risk modeling framework in place that takes into account, incorporates emerging threats into the calculations. Meaning you will have both appropriate methodology for assessing the risk in a single point of time of known events, but also unknown events. I'm trying not to put too much buzzwords, but think about cool, advanced data-driven algorithms that can predict very nicely, never it will be 100%, but can predict very nicely the unknown events. And then once you have, I would say, proper underwriting technologies, and not less important, proper capabilities to manage the portfolio risk accumulation, then you can nicely bring very high limits in.
Yeah, I mean, I want to come back in a little while to talk about the technology, but perhaps this is a question, Yakir, for you, and perhaps Matan may also want to comment on it as well. But if you were sort of advising and looking at a small or a mid-sized business that was looking to get into cyber insurance cover for the first time, what would you suggest for them? How would you advise them?
Matan, you want to go first, or I'll go?
Sure, no problem. I think in general we need to understand how, what have happened since cyber insurance was started to get here, and we all thought in the industry that bigger companies will have more claims, which was the opposite. Actually, smaller companies have more claims ratio, and the reason I think it is that we thought that companies that are bigger are more targeted, right? And attackers will want to get there faster and have more meaningful attacks, but a lot of those mid-market companies are actually having a different phase, meaning, there is a lot of automation now in the world, which means, attackers just scan the internet for IPs and things like that in order to unveil cyber gaps. They don't really know who they're kind of attacking at the beginning. But a lot of those mid-market companies doesn't have the measurements of security, that doesn't have the product, the right people. So it's easier sometimes to get to those organizations. And by that, the claims might be higher and higher. So I think if I was, a business from that angle, that we're trying to go for a claim, my first kind of understanding will be, what will happen on the event, what coverage do I have, right? So I want to understand, what's my policy, how it looks like. But I think the best thing that happens to those organizations, because they don't have the right people to really address the problem, is actually managing the cyber breach when it happens. That's something you have to have in the policy, because that's what you see mostly with those mid-market companies, right? There is no one in the organization that know what to do now when something happened, and they need the help in getting that in place. What I also encourage those companies to do is, before claiming and before getting to those, to that status, to understand where the security posture is, to have some sort of, outside-in scan, external scan, internal scan of their what they're doing, to understand their cyber gaps, how they can improve, what policies they put in place. I think that's the first step, even before going for a claim, because it will make everyone's life easier, I think, when it happens. So that's my take on that.
Thanks, Matan. Yeah, Keir, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'll add and empower what Matan said. I would say, as a business owner, as a business operation leader in small to mid-sized business, I would focus on two main things. One is to assess the business risk at first, and second, assess what's the non-insurance mitigation you can do to this risk before approaching any purchase of cyber insurance. So if you're talking about the first one, you assess main areas of risk, like it can be a lengthy exercise, but I think it's totally worth it. And then once you have that in place, you have a better understanding what types of cyber coverages you need to purchase, and you have, I would say, better foundation to understand whether you need it whatsoever, which type of coverage you need, and whether it makes sense. And some examples, to these kind of risks, business risks, are inability to provide services to customers, or loss of funds, or potential damage that, depends where you're approaching, which carrier. You might have it, you might not. And you must have, this understanding before you're approaching them, and for purchasing cyber insurance policy. And the second one that is very much connected to what Matan said, I would assess basically what are the means that can mitigate these kind of, I would say, business risks. And that means putting in place a solution for increasing the resilience, increasing the monitoring, increasing your IT security governance, increasing the cyber awareness among your employees. There are many angles to that. And then once you have, I would say, correlation between these two, you understand which coverage you need, understand how you can mitigate them even before insurance, then I will go and purchase the policy.
Carry on, Dikla, please.
Hi, I wanted to add it to what my colleagues have said from the insurance angle. And both of my colleagues have touched the point of mitigation. So as an industry, we know that in the last year, we changed from risk transfer, right, into risk mitigation, risk protection. And this is part of I will say, our role in the industry, not only to take care of the risk after it happened, but also to mitigate it and try to prevent it in advance. And a big group that we at Munich Re identify are exactly the group that you talked about, Matan, as, for example, small and medium-sized businesses that not necessarily has the financial resources, not necessarily has the awareness but they are at risk as other large organizations. And the opportunity for us is that there's not really a gold standard in the market yet to say, okay, this is how you do it. There's a lot of a place for creativity and a lot of place to offer resiliency to our clients. So we can really have a role of supporter as a resilient promoter in this industry.
Those are really great comments, and it's, you know, what's particularly interesting to me about your comments is that in South Africa there is a new legislative framework around breach notifications on security breaches, right? We have the Protection of Personal Information Act, POPI as everybody refers to it, and there is a requirement set out in POPI that you must report breaches to a regulator within a particular reasonable period of time. So I put a question to the audience. I don't know how many of you, either in your own businesses or in the business of your customers and clients, have breach notification policies in place, have people in place who are champions of that particular function. So when a security incident occurs, anyone in the organization knows who to call. Question, anyone who knows the answer to that? Definitely yes, we have policies in place. So, you know, maybe 30% of the room. I mean, it's small in circumstances where you must have those mitigation measures that the panel's talking about in place. And, you know, you can see how you're not going to be able to procure the cover you need if you don't have the very basic, you know, requirements of, you know, the legal framework in place. So we have a question from the audience. Can we get a microphone just so our panelists can hear you as well? Just for those guys.
South African corporate South Africa, at least, is not going to do anything until they get kicked in the butt with respect to disclosing breaches. That will, or supposedly supposed to come from the cybersecurity bill, which was drafted, but it hasn't been implemented as law yet. And when that comes, I'll be one of the happiest guys, but it has to be done at some stage. We have to do it. But you know the thing in South Africa, everyone takes a backseat until they have to.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, the interesting thing about POPI and the protection of personal information is that it's in place. It's, you know, it's active, it's law now. We don't have a fully functional regulator yet, so it'll be very interesting to see. So then we'll see, absolutely. Any other thoughts? What I'd like to do is, Dikla, obviously you're at a very small insurance company at the moment. You're obviously kidding, but you have a background as an entrepreneur and you have a background in the industry. And what I'm really interested to hear from you is a little bit more about the ecosystem in which we operate here. I'd love to know a little bit more about how the ecosystem operates in this particular cyber crime and cyber insurance sphere. I wonder if you can take us through some of your thoughts on the players.
You're on mute.
Dikla, you're on mute.
Hi, do you see my screen?
We see your screen. Thank you, Dikla. We've lost the images of you and the rest of our panel, which our tech team will see if they can keep up, but we can hear you well and we can see your screen. So please jump in.
Okay, so I will do it very short. I want to present to you a map that we recently built, and we didn't publish it yet. It will be published next week in an Israeli newsletter. And what we try to do is to look at the investments that happened in the insurtech, in the Israeli insurtech in the last year. And we look at it as a window to really understand the global trend, because entrepreneurs identified the need, they found market, and it definitely reflects the market dynamic. And what we realize is, beyond the numbers of, you know, the insurtech globally raised $10.5 billion so far, the Israeli one raised $2.1 billion. We build this chart that actually reflects the business line, the different value proposition, and the amount that was raised. And you can see in the cyber sector that it's getting crowded already. If you're looking at the kind of value proposition of the companies, and also my colleagues here from the panel are presented here, we have the full stack, right? That sells insurance, MGA and full stack. We have enabler in yellow that offer underwriting, claim management, analytic tools. We have the orange one, which is the most and more advanced from the classic insurtech, marketplaces, policyholder services, and so on. And the purple one, which is a selected company that we showed you, they're not necessarily have to be part of the insurtech. They don't have to offer the solution only to insurtech company, but the technology has high value to insurance, whether they have huge, amazing analytic capability or the data that they're collecting is very interesting to us. And you can see that in the cyber, we have a lot of big deals. The cyber deal raised $360 million this year. And I'm asking a lot of time, my colleagues in Israel and from Germany ask me, are we going to see Israel as the cyber insurance nation, as it the cyber nation? And we definitely see that a lot of early stage entrepreneurs that are not in the map yet have identified that this is a big market, right? That's supposed to reach around $21 billion in 3 years. They identified that they have special capability from the army, from other units, from the A200 unit and sister unit, and they're able to leverage their expertise into insurance. Well, I have to thank my colleagues who sit here on the panel who have identified this need 2 years ago and have an advantage over all the early stage startup that only starting the journey right now. But it's very, very interesting to look at that and to understand how we look from the outside. Let me unshare and so you can see my colleagues and myself.
So Dikla, I mean, that slide's so rich with information and detail. I'm wondering if there are any specific trends that you're spotting there that we should be looking out for. If there's anything else, you know, in the sense of what shifts, what trends could be really valuable just to keep our eyes on.
So the biggest trend that we see is from the full stack MGA. You know, the Israeli MGA raised $1 billion out of the two. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that looking into this space and trying to build end-to-end solution, or whether to start an MGA and then move to be a full carrier. We see a lot of traction there, especially since we see a lot of interest from the investor side. It's still a question that we as an industry have to ask whether the MGA model actually stand. Do we really generate underwriting result as much as we generate result for the investors? So this is a good question. With regard to cyber, like I said, a lot of early stage startups are trying to explore this phase. A lot of startups that came from the generic cyber ecosystem. I will say we have 600 companies that are only part of the cyber ecosystem. So some of them are trying to do a shift and to understand what the value of their offering, but it's important to understand that in order to do this shift, you really have to understand the insurance talk. So on one hand, if you're an insurance company, you have to talk the cyber talk, but if you're a cyber company, you have to talk the insurance talk. And this means that when you're a cyber provider, you usually have huge amount of data, right? But insurance doesn't need all this amount of data. We really need just specific data. And the hard work is to understand which one of the data points we really need, what will really influence the risk, what will really influence the damage, and how you calculate it, and how you translate it from a cyber risk into a translation into premium, into risk understanding in our world, right? Does it answer your question?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I see, you know, Matan and Yakir both nodding their heads vigorously at all of this. I wonder if you have any comments or any thoughts, Matan, Yakir, off the back of some of that data and that information.
I would just add, Dikla, you gave an awesome overview. I would just say Israel is a prolific ground to everything around cyber. And definitely cyber insurance is the spearhead around cyber risk management, and it's pushing all the industry across the globe to be better. I would say position and work like what Dikla is doing is awesome. It's helping everyone, helping the startups, helping people like yourself in the audience. So thank you.
So, I mean, I want to turn to that last topic for a bit, Dikla, and maybe you've got some thoughts on the best ways in which to be active in this industry for those that are in the audience.
Yeah, this is a great question. So first of all, definitely to build a strategy. If you're an insurer, if you're a broker, if you're a player in this market, definitely to build a strategy before you tap into really doing something. The second thing will be to really decide where in the value chain you want to enhance yourself, you want to build self-capability, and where you want to use third-party provider. I always encourage to use third-party provider, to use external innovation, because it's always great to combine expertise from different angles, but just an example of where you can take it, right? So you can start by enhancing your underwriting capability. You can use your reinsurance, so you can use third-party provider. Because like Matan said in the first question, risk is changing all the time. Hackers are becoming more sophisticated, surface attack are changing. What we knew yesterday, we don't know about tomorrow, right? So the historical way of underwriting is not really relevant for the cyber underwriting, and we have to learn how to do the bridging of this part. Another option, a second option is to innovate on the sales side. Right, so you can partner with MGAs that will offer, and it will be in contact with the end consumer. They can also support with the underwriting tool. You can also think about us as in this industry, and we talked about it. We're moving from risk transfer into mitigation and prevention. What can we do there? Can we maybe on the sales side bundle cyber insurance product with a technology product? Will this enhance the risk or the probability that eventually there will be a claim? So there really, like I said before, there's no one truth right now. Everybody are checking, trying different way to distribute cyber insurance, different way to bundle it with different products. For example, it could be a standalone, it could be bundled into other insurance products like home insurance, like devices insurance. We saw it a lot of time. Now Amazon is trying to launch cyber insurance together with smartwatches, for example. So I think there's a lot of ways and a lot of strategy, but really it's a matter of prioritizing what is important for me as an insurance company to build internally, what is important to me to build for the long run, and where do I want to partner with third-party provider.
Fantastic, Dikla. Thank you. Amit, you had a question.
Yeah, hi guys. So I think we, cannot without mentioning the COVID. So here in South Africa, also in Israel, but here, people went to work from home permanently. It's amazing to see, like even banks, banks that already announced that they're working from home and people coming maybe one day a week and things like that. So as a cyber insurance and technologies companies, do you see this as a tremendous change that now you need to change the policy and things like that, or like it's a major risk, or you saying, you know what, okay, it's just another thing, we will cope with that, and it's not just a very a big change for the policy?
I think, I'll take this. I think, COVID have changed a lot about how we think about cyber security in general. I mean, when everybody went home, all the things that you were used to as a CISO, as an IT manager, to what you used to do to protect the people in the company is now different. People working from the laptops at their home, with probably no VPN or protection. You have less control about what they're doing all the time. So the attack surface is changed dramatically. Now your son in the other room can catch your laptop and try to open a website and I don't know, get to phishing or some other stuff as well. I mean, the attack surface have been changed. So the way, and our company, and I believe most of companies in the world have adopted, is actually looking at the cyber risk in a different way, right? In the way it was consumed. We are used to people working from home, not in this volume, not in this kind of atmosphere. So, I mean, if you would look on automatic tool like ours and others, you will understand what is the risk and how it was changed. We actually saw some trends about, the rising of ransomware and rising of clicking bytes and stuff like that because of that change. If you look on, and like Dikla mentioned, on past events, there wasn't nothing like that before, so you won't have the possibility even to do that. So I think, yeah, the world is changing. It's more digital, more cloud. The COVID just expedited that process. And for that, you need more automated tools in order to understand what's going on and how to face those obstacles.
I mean, it's an amazing environment because it's one in which I do a lot of work, and you see why do security breaches happen? Why do these compromises happen? And you look at the big cases around the world where, one of the largest employers and retailers on the planet didn't update printer drivers, and so that's why they had a security compromise and a data breach, right? But now you're not just thinking about that, you're thinking about your kid's PlayStation and the security cameras for your home and every other laptop in the house, all your children's tablets. I mean, as you say, Matan, it's a completely new environment that we have to think about. So Dikla, my question to you then is, off the back of that topic, is how tech savvy do the insurance providers need to be in order to deal with all of this?
So we don't really have to be tech savvy, but like I mentioned before, we have to have someone around the table that will talk the cyber talk, and the provider that we work with and bring this cyber expertise, this deep expertise that it takes a lot of time to build it internally, right? Taking into consideration also the shortage of talent that the world is experiencing currently with cyber. So we should have somebody from their side that understand how to translate cyber risk into technology risk into insurance risk, and the same goes for us. I think that there is a little bit of gap that we need to think how to bridge with regard to the distribution, because also the broker, the traditional channels, and also if you're using other different channels, they also have to talk the talk of cyber. And this is the reason a lot of the startup are thinking about a new way to distribute cyber insurance. And we see a lot of idea with embedded insurance that I mentioned before, and a lot of other creative way to bundle it, to add it, we see, by the way, the tariff, the prices are very, very low, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm not talking about the enterprise coverage, and it's really, there's a lot of flexibility and creativity with the way that we can go with it, but definitely we have to do some work as an industry on the way we translate and we reach out to the ecosystem and offer them solution. With regard to the shortage that we experience, I think that, well, by the way, we feel it the same here in Israel. Also, cyber startup are feeling this need for a lot of talent, and this is the reason that right now there is a big trend that we see of smarter security solution, right? A lot of automation and AI to handle a lot of routine tasks. So if you have a human force, if you have a cyber expert, they can actually handle the complex task. And when we look at our client, right, small and medium-sized businesses, who probably most of them don't have a cyber expert, or maybe they're using some kind of external IT guy that will help them, they really, really need our help. And they really need the help to understand they need it, first of all, as awareness, which is a huge story, right? How to educate, how to let small and medium-sized businesses know, how to let individual understand that they need a cyber insurance. And it's also part of what we do. But if we look at the trend and we look at the technology, we see more automated solution, more robotic processes automation. There's so many products that are trying to answer this lack of human force, really.
Fantastic, thank you, Dikla. We've got 1 or 2 minutes left, so I do want to open the floor to the audience. Time flies when you're having fun. So there's a question over here, this gentleman, if we can get a mic. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for a great talk. I just wanted to find out if you have some case studies that you can share with us. I think that will make it more relatable for just people in general. Thank you.
I can share.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, I can share something like a specific project that we're working on, just to give a reflection of what we can do and how we can tackle it. So Munich Re really tried to understand in one of 20 projects of cyber that we have, how to address the cyber insurance and how to look at the risk that are changing. And what we did is to take a look at 2,500 enterprise and to analyze the claim data and to compare it with different analytic data, cyber intelligent data, and different models that we have in order to try to build a better model. So just an example of how, but first of all, the project to build such project is, you need a lot of resources, you need a lot of time, but just to look at the numbers, the processes that you can go internally in the organization. Claim data is, of course, gold for cyber. And if you're an insurance company and you have this data, the ability to leverage it is huge. really huge because not all the clients has this data. So it's interesting.
Yeah, Kira, I think you may also have had a comment.
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to say, and I'm sure that's also relevant to Matan, there are a lot of great materials, case study, use cases, and research on Kovrr's website, and definitely for the trade mission, happy to share that as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
Sorry, just a thought and a comment from me, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the floor, maybe not necessarily here, but as we go back. A lot of corporates and state-owned entities have not got their head wrapped around cybersecurity properly yet. Security, the insurance companies certainly are nowhere close yet. But when they realize they can either make money or lose money, they have the money to put together a team very fast. So they can get upskilled quite quickly. I'd like to hear what the Insurance Association has to say as well about the direction that they're heading. Thanks.
Thanks. Any comments from anyone in the room?
Can you repeat the question? We didn't hear it.
So I think the question really focused on how both large corporates and government institutions in South Africa have not yet come to terms with what they need to do to deal with cybersecurity as a risk. But the realization comes upon them very quickly when they realize that they can either make money or lose money quite quickly and in quite large numbers. And then they suddenly find the budgets and the resources to pull together teams to deal with the issues. I think that was the nub of the comment. I see Vivian has turned her camera on and is keen to weigh in on the comment. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you for that very difficult question. I think it's a very fair comment. I think it is, as has been said previously by some of the panelists, is this unknown known quantity that we are dealing with here. So also, typically insurers are a bit risk averse, and which is a good thing and a bad thing. So I think we are trying to find, the insurance industry is trying to find that balance between what risk can we handle and what not. We are very aware of the threats, and in fact, I've been attending a conference this week as well in terms of what could the systemic nature be of cyber risk to the industry. So I was wanting to ask this question also of the panelists in terms of what if the whole world at the same time, suffers an attack, for example, to the cloud. There are, only quite a few known providers of the service, and everybody is going that way, and they should. And there's a lot of security around it, but I mean, we also have very, very innovative criminals in this world. So that would be a sort of just something that I would like to know, but I do think that the question was very relevant. The comment that was made was very relevant, and I think we're all trying to find our way. Thank you.
So this is another area in which I practice a little bit, and I think one of the known quantities here, of course, is state-sponsored terrorism has moved into the cyber arena as well. And so there's no doubt that, we see a lot of that going on, and we advise in those areas. And, I don't know how you build in redundancy for that, right, when it comes in at that level. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from the panel if they have any thoughts.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Vivian, thank you for the question. It's an awesome topic, and I would say that definitely there is systemic risk, and there's definitely a need to manage portfolios as you grow them, even from early days when you don't have a massive book. Do that right. To your specific question, whether a global outage on an ISP or a cloud is available, although many they have an agenda to say it's doable, we don't think so. There are so many redundancies out there. There are so many, security controls in place. Yes, I would say regional ones, yeah, they're happening. We do not believe that a global outage of the cloud is really possible.
Thank you very much. I think given the time and given how much time we've spent, I think we'll probably wrap it at that point. Amit, are you happy to thank the panelists, or would you leave it to me?
Just say, of course, first of all, thank you very much, Daryl, for your moderating. I think I'm going to book you for all our events, so be prepared for that. Guys, I would like to thank all the panelists for a great time. We have few requests to meet you and the companies to talk with you further. We will do it just after the event following this week. We have plenty of food, plenty of drinks, so guys, feel free to keep the networking. Thank you very much, Vivian, for the support and everything. And hope, and it's nice to see you face to face. Really, it's not the quantity but the quality, and that's great. Great to gathering again, have to face event. Hope to see much more. And do you want to say a few? And
just to say thank you very much to the panel for the great engagement. It's been great chatting to you today. Thank you for the audience for your great questions as well. It's been fantastic. Enjoy the drinks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Darren.
Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you.